What is up, nerds? Welcome back to episode 33. 33 of the Pickleball Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Lewis with Pickleball Pursuit, here with my co-host and pickleball wife, Justin from Pickleball, etc. How you been, Justin, dude? We got a lot on the docket today, but first, just want to let you know that the Pickleball Pursuit podcast is sponsored by PB Vision, which is an AI-driven tool where you can upload your pickleball gameplay and it will analyze it after a few short minutes and tell you all of the stats, statistics, analytics, and all the mistakes that you've made, especially if you're Justin and I. And it gives you some really good insight on your gameplay. So we have been using this for a little while, and we're very happy to partner with PB Vision. And if you use code PURSUIT or the link in the description, you will get 15 bonus credits when signing up for PB Vision Premium. So, this past weekend, played in a tournament, and we lost in the semis, and I uploaded the video to PB Vision, and first thing I did after I uploaded it, and it, analyzed it and had all the stats and whatnot, as I went to the overall view or the player performance view, and I looked at the charts, and it's on the screen for you guys right now. The two charts on the left are for the team that we played, who won, and our two charts are on the right. As you can see, there's a stark difference in the amount of bad and poor shots from Team 1 versus our bad and poor shots, which is the Team 2. So when I pulled this up, it was immediately obvious. Like, I was like, oh yeah, errors were the reason why we lost this game. And I knew that, obviously. But, for anybody who's like just wondering what they're doing wrong or what they can do better, there's tons of different ways that you can look at PB Vision and analyze whether it's a specific shot, whether it's your shot percentage, your return percentage, your serve percentage, your thirds, fourths, and fifth shots. It all analyzes those and rates them on a excellent, good, fair, and bad rating. Isn't there one more? Average. There's average.
Yeah. So those little bar graphs that you're talking about for the player performance, the people that you showed, the bright green ones, it's like basically how many excellent shots you had. And then the dark red ones are how many horrible, terrible shots you had. Yeah. So as Lewis was saying, you could clearly see they had a lot more bad shots. And if you're wondering, the trademark of Lewis and Justin is we always have, almost every single game we've analyzed, compared to our opponent team, we almost always have more excellent shots. So the green bar at the top is bigger, but we also have far more poor shots. So the red bar at the bottom is bigger. So that's a picture of our gameplay. It's either an amazing shot or not so great. So lack of consistency. We're not doing average stuff very often.
No, but, we're not. PB Vision has definitely been a nice supplement to watching back on gameplay, and in fact, it's like expedited it for me, really. And just seeing the stats and being able to watch every specific shot that I'm working on. Especially for a while, I was working on fourths and sixth shots. Now it doesn't go all the way to sixth shots, but it does show the fourth shot, which was something I was working on tremendously. So seeing those stats and being able to watch those shots that you're currently working on is definitely a very valuable asset. So thank you, PB Vision, for partnering with the Pickleball Pursuit podcast. Again, use the affiliate link in the description, which will give you 15 bonus credits when you sign up for PB Vision Premium. So, man, we got a good bit of stuff on the queue today, dude. Why don't you run through and let everybody know what we're going to talk about? As always, guys, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this last week. Even if there are not timestamps on the video playhead on YouTube, they are in the description. Sometimes they just don't showcase on that video playhead. So if you're trying to look and skip ahead,
I think that's what happens, right? Sometimes they don't show in the beginning. Really?
Yes. Well, I've had it happen multiple times.
That's interesting. I've definitely seen it where it's in the description and not on the play bar, and then later, like a day later, then all of a sudden they're there on the play bar. You're like, oh, maybe it just took a while to process. But yeah,
sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. Today will be pretty straightforward. We're going to get into some paddles, of course, go through the paddle queue, different things we've been playing with and trying out and stuff that's coming up and coming out. We will go over our new week, new main, see if maybe we got some news there. Things have been shaken up a little bit from the past 2 months where we were just playing with the same thing over and over again. So it's a little bit spicier. We're going to go into net gains and talk about just some small things we've been working on and maybe something that can help an average player like us get better. And then at the end, we are finally going to do a Q&A. So thank you to everybody who sent in your questions and commented. I really enjoy doing the Q&A, so we'll hit that at the end of the podcast there.
Before we get to the paddle queue, guys, we completely forgot to give a couple people some shout-outs, especially this gentleman named Kevin, who we met at Era Pickleball. Kevin, if you're listening to this, in Houston last week, if you're listening to this, you were cracking Justin and I up. One of the highlights of the weekend.
Loved meeting Kevin.
Great meeting you, dude. Kevin was just like the nicest guy in the world. He walked up to Justin. He was like, I know you. Yeah.
He shook my hand for a long time. He walked across the facility. Shook my hand for a long time. He's like, I know you. And I was racking my brain thinking, I forgot. I was like, oh, where did I meet this guy? I forgot, I was feeling really nervous. And
I knew immediately.
I'm new to being on the internet, You've had a channel for a while. So it was because it was from the podcast that he knew us, and it was funny. It was just like a friend right away. He started basically ribbing us immediately, making fun of me for being a nerd. And
then he was like, you guys, your hat game's weak. He's like, you need to get some melon hats. And we're like, no, bro, we don't do that. No. We don't do that.
Yeah, so that's the one thing Kevin was off about. He was like, he said that our hat game was weak and that we need to get some melons, but we're not on the giant hat train. So
he called me a man of the people because I was wearing my Carhartt shirt playing
while playing open play. Yeah, we played a couple games with Kevin too. Super nice guy, hilarious. Yeah, and hopefully Kevin, you watch this, and it was great to meet you. Hopefully we'll
it was awesome
see you again next time we're in Houston.
Yeah, we talked and played with him for hours.
We also met a guy named Matt, super nice dude. Mm-hmm. I talked to him a little bit on Discord, and we met up with him. And this is a shout out or a connection, basically. He was playing a game with T.O.
Terrell Owens, baby.
Owens. I know. Yeah. Lewis looked over and he's like, dude, is that Terrell Owens?
That's T.O., yeah.
Or Terrell? I don't know how to say it. And sure enough, it was. He was there playing pickleball. So, yeah, pretty cool. So, shout out to Matt. Nice dude. And thanks for listening and meeting up with us and hanging out a little bit.
Yeah, and then Julio, bro. We forgot to mention Julio as well at the tournament. He came up to us. Dude was just smacking people in 3-0. And he's like, how are y'all doing? And we're like, not good.
Not great.
We're not doing great. He's like, oh, it's okay, like, dude. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was super nice. Julio is a subscriber. So, yeah, Julio, man, we might need to play 3-0 with you. But he got a medal, so congrats to Julio. But yeah, we just forgot to do some shout outs, man. We were just so down and depressed and being a bunch of little babies, and forgot to mention the highlights of the weekend. But
we were so depressed about our performance that we were like, we'll never play together again.
You'll never. More on that later. So yeah. Also, guys, speaking of the Houston tournament, your boy basically plays a tournament every weekend. And,
you do play a tournament every weekend, not basically.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I played 4-0 mixed and 4-0 men's. Double bronze,
Just a couple days ago.
2 bronze medals. So moving up in the world. Justin is clearly the problem. Has nothing to do with the sandbaggers in Houston. Or, the performance-induced anxiety that I put on myself when playing with Justin.
Who said that?
We talked about this. It's like, man, I honestly think maybe I just put too much pressure on winning. Because the first tournament we played, we had a lot of fun. And we weren't
because we were like just a first meeting kind of thing. Yeah. We were like, let's just have fun.
Yeah, who cares if we win? No big deal. But yeah, man, got some bronze medals, but it's
That's pretty
one of
cool,
them was
dude. So
basically
how
a
many medals?
participation award.
How many medals have you gotten?
I got 4 now, dude. 4
Since December.
since December. Yeah.
So basically, in a little over a month, you've gotten 4 medals. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
That's 4 more than I've ever gotten. So
wild to think. So yeah, and no one was carrying me in either of these.
well, congratulations.
We were equal partners. So Luke and Diana. Diana is not a 12-year-old, but in that video, it's titled 12-year-olds Smash Pickleball Pursuit or something like that. But yeah, Diana and I played together. She played awesome. We had a stinker in the semifinals, but you know, it happens. No big deal. We made it, we got it done in the bronze medal match. So, yep, your boy's been medaling. I don't know how. I don't know. I guess it's the work I've been putting in, but things are happening, dude. Big things coming, bro.
Proud of you.
All right, shall we get to paddles, man?
Yeah, we got some cool stuff. It's kind of slowed down a little. It was crazy there for a while, but there's still some interesting stuff releasing. So
yeah, it definitely was pretty insane there for a little while. So the tournament this weekend, I did end up playing with the Saga Bloom 16 millimeter paddle. They will be having a 14 millimeter paddle. I believe it's going to be released in the next month or so. So just keep your eyes out for that. But played with this, really loved it. Had no qualms, no issues, no problems with this paddle. It did everything I wanted it to do. It gets great spin, and it was pretty easy to control. Really enjoyed this. AKA, that's why it was last week's New Week, New Main. And yeah, man, I don't really have any negative things to say about this paddle. It's just a really solid performer. It's got decent power on drives, rip spin, very easy to control, especially at the net, but it has ample amounts of maneuverability, and therefore you can generate a little bit of extra pop on the ball when
you'd call that just the all
speed
court
ups
paddle.
and counters. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is all court. Yeah,
Yeah.
not in any way, shape, or form would I say this is control oriented. Maybe, by pre-PB Core standards, and if the Ripple was, it would maybe a control paddle. But I would say
But
this
it's not
is
a power paddle either.
No. Definitely not a power paddle. Unique paddle too, because it's not Gen 2 and should have a fairly lengthy lifespan. So if you're looking to pick this up, code Pursuit will save you, I think it's $10 or 10%. But Saga Bloom, man, what a great paddle. Really enjoyed playing with it. Have you, we need to get you these, bro. We need to get you these.
I don't have any of the...
Yeah, I think you'd like them.
Anything from Vatic?
Exactly up your alley in terms of...
No, I do have the Saga Flash.
Feel.
And it's I think it's a solid paddle. Great paddle. I can see how a lot of people just immediately like it. Easy to play with. Not my cup of tea.
Very easy
personally.
to play with.
But
very easy to play with.
Saga Bloom 14. That sounds like maybe we'll see, but that sounds more like my cup of tea. And
that could
and
be
maybe
a
even
really
similar
interesting
to Flare Prime X. Given the build in certain ways.
Yeah, that could be a really, really intriguing one. I think honestly, a 14 millimeter Saga may be more enticing than the 16 millimeter, just because the 16 is like, I wouldn't say it's soft, but it's like a softer feeling paddle.
Yeah,
it's not like
soft.
It doesn't feel like it has like a ton of rigidity or just like jump off the face, which is fine. But
I'm a poppy paddle boy at this point.
Yeah, you like that stiff, crisp feeling feedback.
It doesn't even necessarily have to be stiff as much as just poppy.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, Saga Bloom's awesome. We'll move on to the next paddle, which is the newly released Chorus Supercourt. Now this,
boom.
Not sure if anybody has shown this on a podcast yet.
This is the PP podcast exclusive.
PP podcast. The Supercourt HX in the, is it Tronic or Tron?
Tronic.
Tronic. Okay, I just want to make sure. I know it's Tron inspired, but I want to make sure I wasn't, hallucinating, thinking it was Tronic. But yeah, this is the other colorway in addition to its creamy beige colorway that you like to say.
The drunk bellies from a shoe.
Yeah. But yeah, so
we just got these, so they're fresh and pretty.
I talked about this paddle and in its regular, its original colorway, the Supercourt HX. Mine had some odd feedback, and we talked about this briefly on the podcast, and I wasn't sure if it was like in my head or maybe just I had a couple of off-center hits that really were like super jarring. But after playing with that and then getting this in and playing with this, I definitely had something going on with it. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe there's like a slightly loose edge guard or something. But regardless, this paddle is awesome. I played with it completely stock, really enjoyed it. It was shockingly forgiving.
It's good, man.
For, a paddle that doesn't have a super high twist weight number. This came in at 115 swing weight and 6.7 twist weight, which is...
You say that's not super high, but
not bad.
This is below 8 ounces stock. So 6.7 for a paddle under 8 ounces stock actually is really good.
I don't have my...
well, I can tell you mine was 7.78 ounces, and it was 6.65 twist weight, so nearly the same. 114.5
and 115
weight, so.
Is probably on the high end of swing weight for these models, so don't expect yours to probably be around there or under.
It's about average. I think it's average for the Supercourt HX. Yeah, I think 115 is about average. But talking to Matt, it's a very tight spread because I was being picky, and I was like, "Come on, man, help me out. Send me a light one." And he was like, "Dude, they nailed it. It's actually really tight." He said basically everything within this batch was within 114 to 116. So
nice. Okay, well, good. But you have a very locked in.
Yeah, the maneuverability is still good because, like I said, this one is under 8 ounces. Mm-hmm. So to have a nearly 6.7 twist weight at that weight is really good for that weight. And I last, like Lewis alluded to, whenever we had the cream and brown one, the one with the brown grip and the cream edge guard, I freaking love this paddle. This is probably still in my top 3, and which is why I desperately wanted this colorway because this is nice. And
it's good.
I was loving it, and then you didn't really like it that much. You were like, I played with it a little bit, but it didn't feel great. And I was like, man, at that time I was like, either you're crazy or something's up. But this paddle freaking slaps, man.
Yeah, it's a really
just
good
an all-court paddle, but it's got decent pop while still remaining pretty forgiving because it's a 16 millimeter, but it has a fiberglass layer, so it does have good pop and power. Like
it reminds me of the Saga with a slightly stiffer feel and better pop.
Yeah, it's not the most plush feeling paddle. It's a little bit more crisp feeling, which is my preference. But just the shape is really nice too. Like this handle is a 5.6 inch handle, so even me being a handle snob and complaining. And everyone's always asking about this. Look, dude, my hand is hanging off the bottom, and this is how much room it takes me to put 2 hands on a paddle. So that's why I don't like these 5.25 inch handles. And everyone's like, they're good enough. Well, not for me.
You got them big old burly man hands.
I know. Somebody, and they'll know who they are, sent a screenshot of me from the podcast holding a paddle like this. And they were like, what the heck? They were like, you could be a hand model after this. I don't think my hands look particularly modelly, but maybe they do look a little long. But
they're pretty cute, dude. Anyway, all right, Supercourt is on sale now, $119 before code Pursuit. I think it brings 10% off and makes it somewhere around 109, if I'm not mistaken.
And that'll be out by the time this podcast airs. So
yeah, it is already out. So if that's something you've been looking forward to and waiting on, and you're a all-court hybrid paddle lover, might be a really good one to check out. So we'll move on to, I finally got to hit pretty good amounts with the 008 today. Played with the 13 millimeter Tour, and man, I'm actually impressed by this paddle. It's definitely not a power paddle. It is not Not super powerful, not super poppy, but it's very easy to play with. Shockingly, like it has a very low twist weight, but you still get a good amount of energy return on off-center hits, as you can see.
It's that foam.
With this. There's quite a bit of off-center hits, so really enjoyed this paddle. I have seen somebody who said that theirs de-lammed, not core crushed, de-lammed. So that's something to look out for. I'm sure Selkirk is keeping an eye on that. But yeah, I do see what you guys don't love about this handle. It did kind of just barely bother me on this bottom butt cap. And it wasn't anything that was like, oh, I could never play with this, but it was just like, okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about. It's not ideal, but way worse handles than that. That is
yeah.
I would say that's a good handle, but there's one thing that's not perfect about it, you know.
It's not good enough. I wouldn't call it good, but I'm more of a handle snob. I would say it's average at best, but it's not horrible. Average at best.
Average at best is big time. You know, if you're getting that.
It's like my gameplay.
Yeah, average at best.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, 008. Impressive you know, insight on it and impressions. So I'll probably play a little bit more with that. The tour shape is legit. Like it's definitely their best shape. So
and I don't have them.
Anyway. Yeah. You're
no comment.
You got one.
But I want to try them.
You got one on the way, big dog. Should be there tomorrow. Or no, Thursday. But yeah. All right. Now on to a paddle that we have both played with. Mainly you have played with it quite a bit. I've played with this just 2 games. Which is the Franklin C45. Wanted to kind of get. Dust. Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah, it doesn't show too much, but it gets.
It also doesn't feel very gritty.
Good spin.
Good spin, but it's one of those pedals that doesn't feel particularly gritty.
Yeah. This, you measured this. We talked about how it looked a little bit thinner than 14 millimeters, but it was 14 millimeters pretty much on the dot, right?
Yeah, no, it's actually the same as other 14 millimeter paddles, but you weren't crazy because saying this looked thinner. This edge guard is actually slightly thinner than a typical edge guard on another 14. So it's the edge guard itself is actually half a mil thinner. So when you look at it, the paddle overall does look thinner, but the measurement from face to face, like including the core and everything, is the same as other 14 millimeter paddles.
But yeah, this is such a good
little bit more paddle, rounded.
Dude. Such a good looking paddle.
I do like it. Even the shape, you know, it's pretty attractive with like the radius they chose and you know the angle here.
All right, you played with it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Although what?
Although we already talked about it, doesn't use the full dimensions. Classic. Mm-hmm. It's a hybrid paddle, right? Because it's hybrid length, but it's only as wide as an elongated paddle. It's only 7.5 wide. They said they're coming with other shapes of this, which I'm actually really interested, especially if they come with a standard shape that uses the full allotted dimensions.
That would be
okay, before I get into playability, let me tell you some random things about this paddle. This is my favorite stock grip that I've ever tried. Like I don't have an overgrip on this.
Yeah.
And I won't put one on until this starts to wear down. This stock grip feels tacky, like an overgrip. It's like actually really nice. Not that most people would care about that, but just thought it was worth mentioning. Other thing worth mentioning,
slightly
these come
thicker
in,
than most stock grips too.
So adding an overgrip would make it thicker. When it comes time when this wears down and loses its tack, I'll probably take off the stock grip and put overgrips on.
Yeah.
All right. So other thing that's worth mentioning about these, they come in incredibly light. Like, look at this. This is 1 gram per inch. And I have it literally from here all the way down. I have 10 grams on each side.
Gosh.
I have 20 grams on this paddle, which is the most...
Did you counterbalance it?
No. It's just all right here. And it is now at 7 twist weight and like 113 swing weight after 20 grams of weight. So that's how light it was.
Insane.
So even after all that, the stats are really good. That's kind of where I would like to land.
You need
around 113, 114
with your last name on it engraved.
Don't got one. But anyway, so here's a caveat. A lot of people are saying these break in and or break. Mine hasn't yet. I've only have about 4 hours on it. So we'll see. I honestly don't think it's changed that much in stock, but maybe I'm just a wimp and don't hit very hard. But I really like it.
Yes.
I really like this paddle. It is up my alley. It's light, it's maneuverable, it's thin, it's poppy, and it is pretty dang powerful. I would put this into the power paddle category if we wanted to say that, but maybe, not crazy. It's not like top of the line, most powerful paddle you've ever played with, but I'd definitely put it up there.
You'd put this in the power paddle category, but you wouldn't put the True Foam in there.
Correct. I think this is more poppy and more powerful than a True Foam. Not even close to me.
I don't think it's more powerful. But yeah, I would say pop is definitely there.
With the weight setup I have. We're not talking about the stock 7 point something. This thing freaking hits hard. And yeah, it's pretty good. The sweet spot is average. The spin is average, but for a modern paddle, that's good enough. The pop and power are good. It feels maneuverable, and it has a kind of a unique feel that I think some people won't like and some people will. I don't mind it. It's a little bit tingy and hollow, but it doesn't really bother me.
Definitely.
I will say I hit a little stock, and it felt horrible stock. It definitely needs weight. So yeah, I've been playing actually quite a bit with this. I like it a good amount.
Yeah, almost everybody I've let hit that, even though it's not like their ideal paddle, have all been like, oh, this is pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, it's a legit paddle. And I've said this so many times, it's so freaking good looking, dude. I don't know what it is. It's not like, it's the shape and the edge guard. And honestly, this Franklin
new updated
logo,
Franklin logo is nice.
Both of them, the top Franklin logo and the updated logo look good. Yeah, I like that logo.
There is one thing I'll say about it, and we'll see. You can tell me if I'm crazy or not. But to me, this paddle is like the exact blend of like a PaddleTech 14.3 and a Spartus Olympus in both feel and playability.
Yeah, I'd have to hit the Olympus again, but yeah, that probably makes a lot of sense.
It has like that kind of hollow, springy feel like the PaddleTech, but then it has like that foamy, really poppy feel of the Olympus.
Yeah.
And just the shape and the maneuverability also remind me of the Olympus in a way. So,
which makes sense why we both can control this a little bit better than we could the Olympus. Neither of us could get a handle on the Olympus.
Yeah, I liked that paddle a lot, and I actually played with it again for like just maybe like, it wasn't even playing, it was drilling, but for maybe like 10 minutes the other day, and I was like, dang, I feel I should like this paddle. And then I tried it again, and I was like, meh, it's not for me. It just feels weirdly unpredictable. Mm-hmm. And I can't put my finger on exactly why. It's not because it's too poppy. It's just that sometime I feel like randomly you get a hit that gives it like extra pop. And you're like, what the? Yeah. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, you get a couple of exponential or logarithmic jumps.
This is, exactly. But yeah, to me, a mix of the PaddleTechs and the Olympus, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's honestly, the Olympus was popular and the PaddleTechs are extremely popular. So a good, couple paddles to be compared to. All right. Anything on franklinsports.com, you can use code Pursuit to save you some cash, even for balls. So finally got a Franklin code for you guys if you want to check that out. So we're going to talk about a paddle that Justin has played with more than me, which is the new Spartus Apex series paddles, which is the Odyssey. They're both 16 millimeter paddles, and the Orion, which is an elongated shape paddle with a pretty solid 5.6 inch handle.
5.875.
Yeah, bro. Okay, I was about to say it is long. It's longer than the Hirachi.
Yeah, you don't even need to put a finger on the face.
It's about as long as the Hirachi X.
Yeah,
in terms
it is.
Of length.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Nice. Yeah, it might be. I think it's a little longer than the Hirachi X. Just barely.
Yeah, I would say they feel similar. These are one of the few paddles I don't need to put a finger up on the face.
Look at that taper difference, dude.
That's
crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So you hit with both of these more than me. I barely hit with the Odyssey, but I enjoyed the feel of it.
I'm going to briefly touch on the playability, and then we'll go into the build and the price, which I think is actually really intriguing. So two shapes. Absolutely. This is the Orion. This is elongated. with a very long handle and 5.875. And then you have the Odyssey, which is hybrid with a kind of typical 5.4-inch handle, I think. I think it might be 5.375, something like that. 5.3, but like similar to like just a hair longer than like the J2 shape, more similar to maybe the Flash or the DBD if you want to do that. But other than that, both 16 millimeter. Okay.
The grip is like 5. I said,
it's not long. I think it feels a touch more comfortable than the J2, but just barely. But it's not bad. Most people are going to be fine with it. Not me. Okay, so let's talk on the playability first, and then I'll talk about the build and, like I said, the price. These are, I would call them all-court paddles, and they have pretty good playability, like in every metric. Like it's like they're all-court paddles in the middle, and they're not crazy powerful, but they're not super control leaning, right? They have a little crisp feel to them, but they're not overly plush, right? So it's just a little of everything. The sweet spot's good. And they do everything pretty well. So that being said, I think that's actually pretty impressive for what they are, because these are Gen 1 paddles. And if I wasn't told that, I don't think I would have guessed that from playing with them. I don't think they feel like
they were Gen 2.
Yeah, I think I would have guessed Gen 2 or at least Gen 1.5. I think would have been my actual guess based on how the sweet spot feels down around the throat, which is a little bit more dead down here. A Gen 2 paddle tends to still return a little bit more energy down here than the 1.5s or the Gen 1s. But yeah, this is a Gen 1 paddle with 10 millimeter cell diameter, black core. So that's a kind of softer, springier core. And it does not have edge foam, but it does have edge weighting. And they use I think it's a metallic infused gel. They call it the phalanx system. And they do that to add perimeter weighting. And because of that, the sweet spot is better than most, maybe any Gen 1 I've ever used. And like I said, I wouldn't have guessed it's Gen 1. Here's something else. They have fully molded handles. You won't be able to see, obviously, because I have the grip on it, but this is a fully molded PU handle.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
I did know that, but I just clearly forgot.
If you haven't played it much. Isn't that crazy? Like,
that's wild.
All right, every other company, you have no excuse. Because here's the price. The launch price of these, $80.
Yep.
With a fully molded handle, with specific perimeter weighting, good playability across the board, and coming in 2 shapes right now for an $80 launch price. And that is, I'm actually not sure how long that launch price lasts, but it's at least a few weeks, and then it goes up to $95. Yeah. So even at its full price of $95, it's not expensive. So this is a very affordable paddle. And their focus, they've said publicly, is they wanted to build something with great performance, great all-around performance that anybody could play with, at a great price, and that has great durability. And going back to this, it's just a Gen 1 paddle, so you're not going to run into core crush and all these other issues that you run into when you come into thermoforming.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive what Spartus has been able to put together in this package, and with a fully molded handle at that price. So again, every other company, no excuse. You can't say it's too expensive or we can't do it. They are slightly higher diameter than a traditional pallet formed handle, but they're nothing crazy. For me personally, I took off the stock grip and just used one overgrip on these, and I love it because I can feel all the bevels so clearly with one overgrip, and these Bodhi overgrips have just a little bit of cushion. So that's been the perfect size, perfect diameter, and you could just feel the bevels in the shape so well. So very impressive. Already, if you just hand me these paddles, I ought to play with them and be like, yeah, those are perfectly good paddles. And then you take into account the price and the fully molded handle, and you're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. So good job, Spartus. Love to see that they're doing that, and I think
of course these will
be successful.
I can't remember.
February 24th. You should look it up.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next podcast too, if that's what.
Yeah, you should hit with them a little bit more.
Yeah, so first impressions for me were just very limited. You go ahead and then I'll share mine.
I was just going to say the difference between the 2 shapes here is that the Odyssey, the hybrid, feels a little bit softer on contact and a little bit more plush and less powerful, whereas the Orion, with its smaller face and longer overall length, is more powerful and actually more poppy. And I kind of liked the feel of the long handle elongated, even though I'm not an elongated guy, just because it was a little bit more poppy and it was very whippy. So it was nice for flicks and things. Although clearly, look, guys, I have trouble adjusting to elongated. Look how low my ball hits are. They should probably be up here, but I'm just not an elongated player. So I'm pretty sure it's the end of this month, and you'll have to play with them more.
Short handle elongated paddles are literally my least favorite shape in handle combo. Yeah. Could not. I would.
Well, they didn't
much
do that,
rather play with a speed up that has a 7-inch handle.
Yeah, I agree.
A short handle elongated paddle. I don't know what it is. Everyone I've ever played with, I have played like shit with them.
I don't like that weight distribution either when you have those, like the carbon 3 shape or the magnet shape.
Horrible in my opinion. But anyway.
They didn't do that.
Super solid paddles, especially for kind of the beginner intermediate players. And when I say beginner intermediate, I mean people who've been playing for a little while but want to upgrade from their first, cheap paddle. I think this is high performing and a excellent price. So not a giant jump up in terms of price, but a pretty massive jump in terms of performance from your typical, what I don't even know what the Neopipos or all those.
Oh yeah, like a Dick's Sporting Goods $60 paddle. Any of the brands that are there.
Yeah, this is definitely a much easier recommend. But I did like these paddles, or really just the Odyssey. Haven't played with the Orion yet, but felt great. Nothing really negative I can say, apart from just the handle feeling a little bit short on the Odyssey. But it's pretty much like most hybrid shaped paddles, but a little.
Most people will be fine
different.
with it.
Yeah, a little bit different in terms of the taper. So. Yeah, we'll move on to Flickweights, man. We talked about them quite a bit. They sent over a little package to me, which was very kind of them. They wrote me a very sweet letter. But they sent over the 22-gram tungsten weight, which is quite thin. It's a little bit thicker than the 9 millimeter. Or sorry, the 9 millimeter, the 9 gram copper weight. You probably can't really tell on camera, but this bad boy is heavy. And the one concern that Justin and I had with the traditional 24 grams was the original
18
one, right?
gram copper. The 18 gram copper is what you're thinking of, the thick board?
Yeah, that was just too thick. I mean, it's significantly thinner.
It was pretty chunky.
Yeah, I'll show it here, but you can use code Pursuit to save money on It's basically half the thickness of the copper weight, which you guys can kind of see right there. So a little hard to see, but you guys get the gist of it. But Flickweight, really good option, especially if you're someone who just wants a few grams, whether it be that 3 or 6 or 9 gram weights in your handles. Really enjoy these, and I used them on my Invader main setup and loved it. So, yeah, check them out. They're really cool. Flickweights, code Pursuit. So they even sent me one that has my last name on it, which is really cool. So in the 9 gram variant. I'll have to use grams. That. I'll have to use that. Go ahead.
I was going to say 22 grams is, you
got 22 now.
Like a standard butt cap. The stock plastic butt cap is around like 6 grams ish. They kind of vary a little bit, but they're around 6 grams. So 22 plus 6, 28 grams. That's 1 ounce. So there you go. That's why it's
a 22 so you get 1 ounce.
So it's basically a 1 ounce
counterbalance. Mm-hmm. So good stuff. So yeah, we are going to move on to everybody's official reborn again favorite segment, which is New Week, New Main, baby, sponsored by Bodhi Pickleball. If you're looking for overgrips, edge tape, or tungsten tape and other pickleball accessories, I would definitely check out Bodhi Pickleball for all of your pickleball related accessories. They have some really good stuff. You can utilize code Pursuit to save 15% at checkout. Justin and I live and die by the Bodhi grips and use tons and tons of tungsten tape. So really good products. Yeah. 20 inches to be exact. But Yeah, we do love some Bodhi stuff. Check it out. They actually have a Pro Tour bag coming out in March that we'll talk about as it gets closer, but just know it is a very nice bag. There's I'm sure you've seen some influencers with them in the wild. So thank you, Bodhi, for sponsoring New Week, New Main. So Justin, what do we got, man? Last week was New Week, No Main.
Yeah, I
this
know.
week, well, you better not disappoint us.
And, well, let me say this real quick before I get to the paddles.
He's about to disappoint us. I love it. Another long non-answer.
I am. But I just wanted to actually say this about Bodhi while we're talking about Bodhi. Man, they just keep coming out with like good stuff. I just saw yesterday that they have like some slice coins with Bodhi, and they're like all these different designs.
Oh, I didn't see that,
pretty
dude.
Crazy. Yeah, they look cool.
Dang.
And then he's always had like good quality edge tape, but now he has some new patterned ones that are cool. So if you're into that, like paddle bling and using edge tape to make your paddles look a certain way, and the slice coins match as well. And then of course that bag you and I are both using right now, testing, and we'll talk more about it. But yeah, dude, honestly, Bodhi just keeps coming with the heat. So pretty cool to see.
That's awesome.
All right,
good to see.
New week, new main.
Oh baby.
I don't know, dude. Come on.
He's a paddle-nizer.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Look, I loved the Supercourt HX. I played with it for a while in the creamy colorway. Now I got this new Tronic colorway. I'm going to have to
sound like you said creepy colorway for a second.
Well, maybe. And then we got the Franklin. Really enjoying this. Going to keep putting more time on it because I want to see if it breaks in and or changes. So,
which begs the question, does Lewis bitching about not using the full allotted dimensions actually mean anything?
Yeah, I don't love the shape, but it is a good paddle, and I will be playing a lot more with it. And I could see myself like kind of, especially if I know that there's a standard shape on the horizon, kind of like locking in with this one for a while until that comes out. Vapor Power, dude. This one has stayed in the bag, by the way, since I got it. And every now and then I keep pulling it out, and it is good. And there will be a pre-order starting on this coming Friday at 11 for the 11624 Power Paddles. Yeah, so look out for that if you're interested. But man, this paddle is good. Love it. And then there's Old Faithful, Neonic Flare Prime X. If you told me tomorrow morning you had to wake up and play a tournament, of course this is the paddle I'm playing with. Even though I didn't say it last week, it's just is... this paddle checks all my boxes and is the paddle I can 100% play with without thinking about at all. So it's like the telepathic paddle, if you will. So it holds a special place. It's probably my longest main ever, and it's probably always going to kind of stay in the bag. But yeah, so new week, all these paddle. Mains.
New week, lots of mains. Yeah, those 11624 power paddles, man. They just, every time you play with, you're like, could this be it? Could I finally?
I know.
Could I maybe be ready? Maybe not be too trash for a power paddle? So yeah. All right, guys. Well, new week. New main. Now listen, guys. We played with this last tournament, and we double bronzed, which means Lewis. Very successful switch to a new week, new main. But guess what, guys? We're not done. It is a new week, so there will be a new main. Not for any reason other than I just think I wanted to try something else. This week, I'll be playing in an MLP tournament, and the new week, new main was gonna be the Pegasus, but we just, you know how we said, you pick up those 11624 power paddles, and you're like, oh, could this be it? Could this be it? No, it's not it. I'm still too trash for a power paddle. This is not the main. All right, guys. Which means...
Really teasing us this week.
Is it? It's officially new week, old main, baby. We got the Neonic Flare Prime X. I played with this today, and Jesus, this paddle is so good.
You finally saw the light.
God tier spin, bro. I finally saw the light. If like the 3-5 tournament wasn't like enough to make me make the switch, today was just the icing on the cake. There were like there was probably like 20 times during the 3-5 tournament where I was like, geez, this paddle gets so much spin.
I know you kept telling me. Meanwhile, while I was playing with mine, you're like, this paddle's so good. I'm like, I know. I've been playing with it. I tried to tell you.
Yeah. God, dude, this paddle is so freaking good.
Very good.
126 after code makes it even better. It's just a stupid good deal. If you're a standard shape lover and you like having a paddle that has a little bit of pop and power to it, damn, dude, this is a no-brainer. Such a maneuverable paddle.
Don't you
feels so good.
For a 14 millimeter paddle with fiberglass?
Oh my God, it's so good.
It feels so much better than that sounds.
Yeah, this paddle is just ridiculously good. It's like every time I play with it and come back to it, I'm like, whoa, this paddle is like legitimately like a unicorn. There's no paddle like it on the market. Nothing. And I mean, there are some that have similar playing characteristics, but the combination of feel and just the playing experience with it, there's really nothing like it. So I have, I think it's 7 grams or 8, 7 or 8 half a gram per inch tungsten tape on here. And I have the Bodhi dry grips, baby. I think I'm a dry guy, you know?
That's interesting.
I used to like it sticky and tacky, but now I might be a dry boy. So, Flare Prime X, dude. New week, new main is back. John with Speak Pickleball. Man, I'm sorry I ruined your post in one day. The Saga Bloom Flat. Saga Bloom was a pretty badass paddle, but God, dude. This paddle's so good. How many times did I say something to you about the paddle when we played?
A lot. I mean, and
it was ridiculous.
I feel like over the course of 6 or 7 or 8 weeks before that, whenever we were doing New Week, New Main, and I was just being boring and saying the Flare Prime X, and then also telling you off camera, you need to try this again. And you're like, meh. And then as soon as I
switched
stopped
to it for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Invaders, really. The Invaders, just like, you know, that really new, hot, smoking, beautiful paddle that comes to the market.
That's a good paddle. That's a good paddle.
And it is a very good paddle. But I even tried to play with the Invader today. I was like, maybe I need to go back. And I was like, I played with it and I was like, I think I just like the Flare Prime X better.
Yeah. And you said, like, if you like a standard shape paddle, this is like my favorite standard shape, this one and like the Pickle Hurricane Pro. But here's a little something for you guys. For all you people who hear us talking about this paddle, but are like, oh, I hate standard shapes. There's rumblings. Neonic's going to bring this paddle to hybrid and elongated shapes. Now, that's not 100%, but let them know that you want it if you want it, and maybe they can make it happen.
Vin, make it happen, dude. Like, what the hell are you doing? We need this. Give it to the people.
You want a hybrid?
Give it to the people.
Do you want a hybrid? Do you think you would choose a hybrid over this shape? This is a good standard shape. It's not a wide body. It's like a true 16.
Good. Yeah.
The handle's perfect.
That and the Saga Bloom, they're virtually the same shapes. The shape on those is incredible. And my previous best standard shape was the J3 shape, which is a really good shape, but I think these are better. I think these are just a little bit
than the J3.
Yeah, just a little bit better, more ideal, more streamlined, and just obviously a more maneuverable paddle. But anyway, I digress. New week, new main is back, baby. We are officially head cases again, switching paddles, having commitment issues, playing the field, swiping right. So somebody said we had the pickleball paddle hall pass.
Perfect.
I thought that was really good. All right, guys. Well, we're going to move on to Net Gains, sponsored by Range Fit. Range Fit is a hydration or electrolyte mix company, and they have a few really good flavors. And not only are the flavors good, but more importantly, Range Fit offers some of the best balance of electrolytes that I have tested and consumed. I'm a bit of a electrolyte snob. Some might say a nerd, but the Range Fit hydration packs or electrolyte mixes are really stellar products. And I didn't tell y'all this last time, but they are made in my hometown. So what's funny is how I got to meet them was they were, on display for a tournament, and I took drank some of their stuff, and immediately was like, this is good. And I looked at their bottles that they had, and I was like, hold on, this is like really good. Like the balance of sodium and potassium and chloride and magnesium was better than just about any hydration mix pack that I have been, taking. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy some of this. And then turns out, they wanted to sponsor the podcast months later. So anyway, long-winded way to say you can utilize code PURSUIT when purchasing the Range Fit hydration packs, and that will save you some cash. So thank you, Range Fit, for sponsoring Net Gains. I love Range Fit. I know you do too.
Yeah.
We're actually
I'm a new convert.
Right now.
Yeah, we got some. I was new to it, so
I've been
I
saving
recently
this
got introduced
for this moment. I've been like,
I know.
trying not
Look,
to chug
mine's
it.
almost gone too. I'm trying not to chug it, but so we got some sent over, prior to the sponsorship and everything, and this is the first thing that you're a bigger nerd about than I am. So congrats to you.
Yeah.
But
nerd alert.
Yeah,
feels good, dude.
It's good.
Like
and not only do I like it, I said this last week, but my wife loves it. So we went through that bag so fast, and then she was like, "Hey, can you order some more?" So I had to order a tub. To me, strawberry kiwi. This is the goat flavor. It's the best flavor.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, they're all three are good. It's lemon lime, blueberry acai, and the strawberry kiwi.
And you said lemon lime's your favorite.
Lemon lime is my favorite for sure. Reminds me of like a Gatorade that doesn't have pounds of sugar in it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But sometimes sugar is good when you're consuming it to get some energy. So I'm not sugar shaming over here. Okay. All right, man. Net gains. What do we got, dude?
All right. Get to the net. Now, this is something that kind of especially applies to kind of our level. We'll just say like from 3.5 to 4.5, really. We said this to each other so many times, specifically whenever you're the one serving, right? You kind of have a slight disadvantage in a way, in that the returner kind of gets a free pass to the net.
Yep.
Somewhat. They get the return and run right to the net, unless they hit some kind of weak return and you can blast a third at them. They get a pretty free ride to the net. But when you're serving, you have to work to get to the net. And sometimes that can just mean hit a great third and you're there. Sometimes it means, have to hit a third, a fifth, a seventh, and work your way in, right? But to actually just get there and get neutral as a serving team, a lot of times is a big win. And Lewis and I talked about this a lot because we're like pretty tall guys and we have like decent weapons at the net, right? And so we had said so many times going into these tournaments, if we can just chill, hit good thirds, not try to do anything crazy, and just get to the net, like it will be so good for us, right?
Easier
so that's what we said going in.
Than done.
Yeah. Well, so that's what we said going in. And then here was the eye opener for this. So
dude, this was crazy.
My coach asked me for the next session. He was like, give me a video of a game where you felt good, a video game where you felt bad. And then he was like, also, can you pull out some points where all four players are at the net for more than a couple shots? Because he was specifically going to coach me on like net positioning and some things like that. And I was like, sure. So here's the shocking part. I went through all the footage for our entire 4-0 tournament. And there were so few points where we were all four at the net for more than a couple shots that I was able to put every single point out of the entire 4-0 tournament. So that was 5 matches. And these are 2 out of 3 games to 11. 5 matches worth, and it ended up being 4 minutes worth of footage. And honestly, most of them were within one match where the guys didn't really have as dangerous of thirds and whatever, so we were able to get in, or fourths. But yeah, it was kind of shocking because then I sent that to the coach, and I also sent it to Lewis, and Lewis was like, dude, this is kind of good, And then coach also said
he was really good. We won like 90% of those points.
Yeah, like pretty convincingly too.
Yeah.
And then coach, he was like, we'll get into this more. He was like, but honestly, this isn't bad at all. He was like, this is pretty good for your level. So thanks, coach. And
thanks, Steve.
But all that to say is, man, if we had just listened to our own advice and stopped trying to hit these low margin thirds, to try to rip drives or make these silly errors and just get to the net, just hit a consistent third, even if it means it's a little bit higher margin, and then hopefully you have to hit a good fifth and then get in. Because in reality, like me personally, my fifths were actually pretty good that tournament, so it could be possible. And that was a big problem I saw with us in this tournament, is that we were going for too much on thirds. And then not only that, but we would get to the net, and it's almost like we were so antsy to like be dominant at the net that the next shot, we're like, I'm attacking it. And then we wouldn't just just settle in, get to neutral, put the ball on the ground in front of your opponent, in a neutral manner and see what can happen. And every single point that we did that, it seemed like they were either going to get impatient first and make a bad shot that we could counter, or they would miss, or we're able to control the point then and set up things. Like there were multiple points where one thing that Lewis and I do pretty well is set up Ernie's. And there were multiple points where we were able to kind of control and set up Ernie's, and that ended in finishes. So that's net gains. If you're in 3-5 to 4-5, try this. Just try to go really hard on one play session and say, I'm not going to try to hit the lowest margin best third I can. I'm going to try to get to the net. And also, once I get there, I'm going to try to settle in and then see what happens and see if it helps you out. Because honestly, I feel like there's a ton of pressure at our level to hit amazing thirds. And that's like kind of the name of the game right now too, because it's speeding up. So everybody wants to hit a great drive, right? But I'm going to personally try to shift my focus off of hitting the absolute best third I can to just hitting more consistent thirds. And like I keep saying, get to the net, get neutral, settle in, and see what happens from there. It may be different for other people, but for us, I think that would have made a massive difference if we would have had that mindset drilled harder into us. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And you and I suffer from the same thing at the net. We both have good backhand flick. You have a good backhand flick. I have a good backhand roll that we can both initiate speed ups and be very successful from. But sometimes that overconfidence gets us in a little bit of trouble. We spray it out, or we hit it into the net because we are not being patient. We may go for one that's just a little, a little too low, a little too close.
Might as well just think that low. Again.
Yeah. Exactly. And to bring it back to before that, guys, I am a huge sufferer of this, but trying to hit a drive hard, it's not really that necessary. Like, you're going to hit it hard enough. Just hit it 60%, 70%
Make
max.
them hit up on it.
Yeah, it's not really about the speed. It's more about how it shapes over the net, and you're not giving them something high to, punch down. So, man, high percentage thirds, I'm preaching to the choir because you and I both suffer from this. So it's it's insane how much better you do when you just think to yourself, I'm just going to get this third in and then see what happens. I'm going to try to get this fifth in. I'm going to try to get this seventh in.
Try to settle into a point rather than finish a point,
Yeah. Especially at our level, people are going to make mistakes.
Yeah, or get impatient. Yeah, and if you're prepared for it, like, a lot of times countering is so much easier than actually speeding up, to be honest. And it's like if you are like, I'm just going to get up there and get neutral, and I'll give them, like I said, put the ball on the ground in front of them. And if they might speed up, at our level, it's not like these crazy long hands battles. Usually you'll get the first counter back. Oftentimes that ends the point. Maybe they get the next one back, but usually it's not ideal. And then you finish.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Anyway, that is Net Gains, brought to you by Range Fit. Code Pursuit will save you some cash when purchasing. So we're going to move on to NERDTOWN, which this week, finally, we decided, hey guys, we'll read your comments. Just kidding. We read all the comments. But we decided, hey, guys, we'll actually look through the comments and pick out some really good questions. We actually had quite a few good questions last week that we're going to try to answer. Yeah, guys, thank y'all very much for your questions. We really do appreciate them. We read every comment. Justin likes to respond to a lot. I respond to some, probably a little bit less than you. But thank you guys for always commenting. A lot of them crack us up. But anyway, so Diane Susiana 98 has asked, can you explain what dual thermoforming is? We've seen this with the C45, and I feel like there's another paddle that dual thermoforms that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I could be wrong. So
probably talking
Justin,
about the Franklin.
Yeah, take it away, man.
Well,
be a nerd.
It's actually not as complicated as it sounds. So everybody knows that the paddle is essentially a sandwich panel, meaning that you have like your composite face, so carbon fiber or fiberglass, whatever happens to be on one side, and then same on the other side, and then in between, in the middle of the sandwich, you have your core, which is, honeycomb polypropylene most of the time. What Franklin is saying is they're getting a large sheet of this composite face, this carbon fiber face, and large, and they're going to make a big, giant rectangle sandwich panel, right? So one panel on the or one sheet on the bottom, top, and then the core. They will press all those together, thermoform them, basically meaning heat press them. So they press them together with heat, which activates the adhesives. So it's now glued together. Now you have a large rectangular sheet that's glued together. Then they will take that sheet and cut out the shape of the paddle, right? And the next step, here's where the second thermoforming comes in. They will then get in the case of this Franklin, they route out. They use a little router, a little tool that goes in and cuts out a channel to put foam in. But that's not always the case on every paddle. But regardless, usually what will happen before the second one is they will put in some sort of edge foam around the entire perimeter. And then they have a carbon seam, which is just a piece of carbon that's essentially as thick as the paddle is. And it runs along this whole side to close it up, to close up the outside. Then they will put that whole thing into another mold. This second mold will be the shape of the paddle itself. And they'll put it in there and then thermoform it a second time to expand the foam and to heat weld, essentially, that piece around the edge seam. So now it's like completely enclosed in a paddle shape. So that is double thermoforming.
Bravo. I don't have anything to add to that.
That's okay. You can read the question.
All right. Question number 2 from 65 at best PBA. Just a gold medal commenter. He asked, in reality, how much control does a U.S. paddle company actually have over QC? I'm not sure if he means a U.S. paddle company dealing with a overseas factory or U.S.
I assume.
But I assume that's what it is. So Justin, take it away, big guy.
Based on the context of the comment, I assume he means a U.S. brand that is selling paddles that are manufactured in Chinese factories. How much control do they truly have over QC? The answer is they can have a lot, but it's up to them to take the initiative and hold the factory accountable. As in, whenever your paddles come in from the factory, it's going to be up to the U.S. brand to inspect them, dissect them if needed, and say, hey, wait a minute, this is wrong. This is a different material than we said. Any number of things, right? And then present that information back to the factory to hold the factory accountable and say, this is not what we ordered, or you are taking lazy manufacturing, or whatever the case may be. And then they will usually, force them to remanufacture X amount of paddles or refund those, or, whatever. There's a lot of different variations. And what you're hitting on, by the way, is like one of the, I won't call it main services, but it's a pretty common service that I do as a consultant to brands is a lot of these brands don't always have someone on staff who fully understands the manufacturing and the different materials. So one of the services I provide is essentially a dissection and materials analysis of their products. I'll take their products whenever they receive them from China, dissect them, analyze the different materials that are used, the different construction methods, and then give a report back to the brands and say, this is right, this is right, this is right, great. Hey, this is wrong. You can do this better. here are photos and here are videos of all this. And I give it to them in a way that they can then present it back to their factory and say, we need to address these 3 items, use a different material here, fix this mold, fix this manufacturing process, make sure you have tighter tolerances on this item, or, any number of things. But so to answer your question, there's a good amount of QC control from the American brands, but they have to take the initiative, and it's not ideal because you usually have to do it after the fact. So, if you have time as a brand, what you normally want to do is like order a small batch, QC check it yourself before, and then make whatever changes you want to make before ordering a large batch. Because you can imagine if you ordered 10,000 paddles and you did a dissection analysis and you're like, oh crap, they did this wrong. Well, now you're stuck with that many paddles, and trying to, essentially get those remade or refunded is going to be a bigger pain. So there is a way to control QC, but obviously it's not as good as being there on the ground or having the production in-house or down the road in the US somewhere.
And it's also dependent upon the knowledge of the owners too. If they don't, they're not, educated in what are good QC standards, they're not going to have much control over it, because
or they might just not even,
it,
they might not think they need to check, and they just trust what the factory says. You need to check. I can tell you from experience, and you don't have to have, like an engineer or someone who knows paddles really well on staff. You can hire someone to do it. Me. I don't know of anyone else who does it, but I'm sure there are people. But that is a service.
It's just you, actually. Only Justin from Pickleball, etc.
I'm just kidding. No
I think
the bigger brands have people on staff who do this. But for the smaller brands, it's probably easier actually to outsource it.
Yeah. To Justin.
Yeah. Quick commercial for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So just it's also brand dependent. Some people do more or less. So I won't go too far into that. But last question from Mr. 3301. He said he has a question that may be good for... He has a question that may be good for NERDTOWN. But how does paddle construction impact tennis elbow? And we've kind of talked a little bit about this, kind of, randomly, not necessarily in a condensed segment. But Justin, you want to go first, or you want me to go first, man?
Let me say my piece first. Someone who's not a doctor, I can tell you though, tendonitis of any kind is from repeated stress. So if you get tennis elbow, it's just tendonitis, and it's from a repeated stress that's kind of unnatural. That can be from a lot of things. It could be from gripping too tight. It can be from the vibrations of the paddle being too harsh, or it can be from the paddle being too heavy. And we say paddle, this also goes for rackets for tennis or golf clubs for golf, because you can get golf elbow, and it's kind of the same story. So there are a number of different variables and factors, but just know that if it starts coming on, you do need to change something, because if you just keep doing the same thing, that is repeated stress, and it's only going to exacerbate it. So there are different, things you can get as far as armbands and stuff like that. The quick and dirty of paddle construction, you can't really say, because different things bother different people, but here's things to look out for. It either grips that are too thin or too wide, diameter wise, could be bothering you depending on your hand size and how hard you're gripping. And also paddles that have harsh vibrations, so that have fiberglass in them. And that's why, Hesicor and these Ethos Undergrip are all advertised as items that can help with tennis elbow, because they make it to where you can grip the paddle easier without gripping as hard. You feel more confident in your grip without squeezing, because the repeated squeezing while doing the other twisting motions of your wrist. And it could also be a technique thing. If you're tweaking your wrist in a weird way every time you hit a forehand, that matters. But yeah, as far as construction, fiberglass is one to look out for, because it has harsh vibrations, and extra thin or extra thick grips, which you can have some control over with what over grips or under grips you use. Those are the two things I would think of. And extra heavy stuff. Don't put on a ton of weight.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely heavy paddles will exacerbate those issues. Just pretend
for
like
some people,
Yeah, just pretend like you have an overuse injury and you're adding weight to that use. That's only going to add more stress and, force required to utilize whatever tendons that you're, using for that motion. So just keep that in mind. Weight is actually a pretty big factor, especially if you're like a very wristy, flicky kind of person. So you pretty much hit them all the spots I was going to hit. But yeah, I think that's it, man. Thank you all very much for the questions. We appreciate these. We love seeing, what you guys got, questions about.
Yeah, keep them coming, because we'll do another Q&A once we build up into the enough questions again.
Yep. All right, man. Fairly chill podcast, man. You got anything else before we want to sign off? No drama today. No drama.
Well, there's always drama. We just choose to not talk about it.
We're not going to talk about the drama.
So.
Yep. Anything else you want to say before we sign off, man?
No.
All right. Thank you to our sponsors,
week.
PB Vision, Bodhi, Pickleball, and Range Fit. Guys, thank you for watching this episode of the Pickleball Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Lewis, with Pickleball Pursuit, here with my co-host, Justin, from Pickleball, etc. Hire this guy if you need him to check out your paddles and make sure that the QC is up to snuff. So we will see you next time. If you have any questions, comments, as always, put them down in the comment section below. Until next time, peace.